Title: The Woman Who Wouldn't Bow. When Mariah Denton walked into Paragon Bank that morning, she wore her confidence like armor. A navy blazer crisp against her caramel skin, dark trousers tailored to her long legs, and her hair pulled back into a smooth bun. She didn't come to beg or ask. She came to claim what was already hers. $2 million, her money, for a merger that would transform her firm, Denton Dynamics, into a national force. But as she approached the counter, her presence seemed to trigger something in the wiry young teller named Bryce. "Let me guess," he sneered, barely glancing up. "You're here for an application?" "No," Mariah replied coolly. "I'm here to authorize a transfer from my corporate account." Bryce chuckled like it was a joke. "Sweetheart, we can't just hand over millions of dollars. You need to talk to the account holder." "I am the account holder," she said flatly, sliding her ID and business card across the counter. Bryce picked it up, rolled his eyes, and muttered under his breath, "Sure you are." Mariah's smile didn't flinch, but her eyes hardened. She motioned out the window. Across the street, a gleaming tower bore the logo Denton Dynamics, her name carved in steel. Bryce looked. Then he laughed. You're that Denton. Is there another one?" Bryce's jaw twitched. Then came the final insult. He voided the transaction, claimed it was suspicious, and when she pushed back, he leaned close and whispered a slur meant to sting. Moments later, 2 security guards escorted Mariah out, humiliated, fuming, and humiliated in front of a lobby full of strangers. That moment would ignite a fire no one could contain. Back in her office, high above the city, Mariah sat behind a desk of glass and steel, watching the skyline she helped shape. Her name still glowed on the Denton Dynamics tower, but inside, her blood boiled. Not because of the slur, she'd survived worse, but because of what it meant. That in 2025, a black woman could still build an empire and be treated like a fraud. She dialed her lawyer, Lorraine Kyler, a battle-hardened corporate shark who'd once eaten Wall Street for breakfast. "They shut me down," Mariah snapped into the speaker. "Froze the transaction. Called me a fraud. Tossed me out like a criminal." Lorraine's voice was calm but sharp. "I'll file suit within the hour. Discrimination, slander, civil rights violations. Paragon Bank's going to bleed for this." Mariah hung up, fists clenched. Then her assistant, Devin, rushed in, his face pale. "You need to see this," he said, holding up his phone. A headline flashed: "CEO of Denton Dynamics under investigation for financial fraud." Mariah's heart stopped. "What the hell is this?" she whispered. The article accused her of fabricating company finances, using questionable tactics to build her empire. It cited an anonymous bank employee, likely Bryce, and suggested criminal charges were imminent. She opened her laptop. Her screen blinked red. Account suspended. She checked her personal bank. Same message. She tried her corporate fund. Frozen. Every dollar, gone. And the clock was ticking. The merger had a 72-hour window. If she didn't deliver funds, her company would dissolve. Everything she built, erased. Then came the email. No subject. One line. "You don't belong here, and we'll prove it." Attached was a photo of her house. A picture taken that morning. Mariah stared, stunned. This wasn't business. It was personal. Someone wanted her erased. That night, protesters stood outside her building. Not activists, hate groups. Signs read, "Go back where you came from," and "Fake CEO." Her phone exploded with hate mail. Her address doxed. Her employees harassed. Then came the brick. It shattered the window of her office. On it, a note written in red, a slur, big and bold. Mariah held the brick in her hand and made a promise to herself. "No one burns what I built." Her lawyer called again. They traced the email to a suite on the executive floor of Paragon Bank. Name on the lease, Ronald Braddock. Vice President. White. Old money. Friend of senators. Mariah had never met him, but she understood his type. Men who shook hands in marble rooms while sharpening knives behind their backs. Ronald wasn't threatened by her merger. He was threatened by her existence. So she fought back. She filmed a video. Told the world what happened. Named names. Bryce, Ronald, the system. She posted it. It went viral overnight. But that same night, her home was firebombed. Devin's car was vandalized. Her servers were hit with a cyber attack. Still, she pushed forward. The next morning, she walked into Paragon's corporate office unannounced, flanked by lawyers and cameras. You have 30 seconds, she said to the receptionist, to call Ronald Braddock to this lobby, or I'll hold a press conference on your marble floor. He came down. You've made quite a mess, he said coldly. Mariah didn't flinch. You picked the wrong target. Behind her, reporters snapped photos. Braddock's expression shifted. Later that day, she got a call from a journalist. A whistleblower from inside Paragon had leaked documents, memos proving Braddock froze her accounts illegally, that he orchestrated the leak, that he'd authorized the brick attack. Mariah had her weapon. She posted those memos to every platform she could. She hired security for her staff. She doubled down. By the next morning, national news picked up the story. Congress opened an inquiry into Paragon Bank. Protesters surrounded Braddock's home. Then came the lawsuit. And the countersuit. Mariah didn't just go to war. She won. Her merger closed with a new bank. Denton Dynamics exploded onto the national stage. Her office window was repaired, but the brick she kept, framed behind her desk. As for Braddock, fired, sued, disgraced. And Bryce? He now bags groceries in a strip mall 2 counties away. Mariah Denton still walks with fire in her heels. Not because she was hurt, but because she healed herself and made sure no one else would bleed the same way. The wind was sharper the next morning. Mariah stood by her office window, staring down at the street. Below, dozens of news vans lined the curb. Cameramen clustered behind barriers. Protesters held signs that said, "Believe Black women, justice for Denton, and break the bank." But her eyes weren't on them. They were on the lone man standing across the street in a gray overcoat, Ronald Braddock. He'd refused to stay gone. Despite being fired, despite the public shame, he still walked like he owned the pavement, still looked at her tower like it was built on his land. Mariah turned away. Her assistant Devin came in with wide eyes. "The federal subpoena landed," he said. "They're indicting Braddock. Wire fraud, civil rights violations, obstruction, and conspiracy." She didn't react at first. Then, just the ghost of a smile. But her triumph wasn't complete yet. Not until everything was accounted for. That evening, she was invited to speak at the Georgia Tech Women in Business Summit, a stage she had once been denied. Her team begged her to skip it for safety reasons. Protesters still roamed. Threats still poured in. She'd been advised to lay low. She didn't listen. The ballroom was filled with hundreds of young Black and brown women, future CEOs, lawyers, engineers. When she stepped onto that stage, silence fell like reverence. They didn't cheer. They didn't clap. They watched. Because what she had done was no longer just about her. Mariah took a breath and began. "They tried to lock my accounts, but they couldn't lock my voice. They tried to freeze my company, but they couldn't freeze my vision. They called me a fraud because they couldn't believe a Black woman could build anything without permission. But I don't need permission. I need a plan. And I had one." The crowd roared. But she held up a hand. "But don't clap for me. Clap for yourselves. Because the system we're up against isn't just one man, or one bank, or one brick. It's in boardrooms, in bylaws, in subtle slights and silent sabotage. I didn't just come here to fight back. I came here to build forward." She walked off stage to a standing ovation. And by the time she stepped out the side door, a young intern named Malia was waiting for her, clutching a folder. "Miss Denton," the girl said breathlessly, "I think you should see this. I work in data compliance at Paragon, what's left of it. I found something buried in the systems, deeper than even the subpoenas reached." Mariah opened the folder. Her hands froze. Internal transfer records. Millions quietly rerouted from small Black-owned businesses across Georgia over the course of 5 years. The manipulation wasn't just personal. It was systemic. This wasn't just about Braddock. This was about a culture of sabotage baked into financial institutions. A quiet bleeding of Black capital. A war no one had documented. Until now. Mariah looked up. "You realize," she said to the intern, "if I expose this, it'll shake the entire sector." Malia nodded. "That's why I'm bringing it to you." Mariah nodded once. "Get in the car." The following Monday, Mariah stood on the courthouse steps with her legal team behind her and dozens of plaintiffs to her left. Business owners, contractors, single mothers denied loans for invisible reasons. She filed a class action lawsuit against not just Braddock, but Paragon Bank and its silent enablers. Denton v. The banking system. That name made headlines across every major outlet. It lit a match across industries that thought they'd never be held to account. Mariah's face was on every cover, not as a fraud, but as a founder. She didn't stop at a lawsuit. She launched a Denton Equity Fund, offering low-interest loans to underserved Black-owned businesses. She established a nonprofit arm of Denton Dynamics, staffed by Malia and Devin, to teach young women of color how to audit, analyze, and own their data. And 1 year later, standing at the grand opening of the Denton Tower, a second headquarters rising in Washington, D.C., she cut the ribbon with her mother beside her and said into the microphone, "When they tried to lock me out, I built a bigger door. And now, everyone walks through it." The crowd erupted. Cameras flashed. And somewhere, behind some closed door, the last vestiges of the old guard watched and trembled, because they had underestimated Mariah Denton. And in doing so, they helped birth a movement that would outlast every tower of theirs that would ever crumble. The end.